phrases will make you understand, get into the mode of identifying the factual, analytical and conceptual questions for the prelims point of view, wherein you will be definitely having an edge over others. And not only that, by emphasizing on the keywords and the key phrases, I will make you get into the practice of inculcating, imbibing the keywords and the key phrases in your answer writing, that is definitely when you are going ahead in regards to the mains, that is answer writing. So what is very important is your answers have to be precise and concise. So these keywords, that is precise and concise, is prerequisites which have to be, or which your answers for the mains examination has to be, and that will definitely be, your answers will be precise and concise only when you imbibe or get into the mode of practicing or inculcating the keywords and the key phrases in your answer writing, that is in the mains examinations. So when you do that, so definitely you will be scoring higher marks in the mains examination. So definitely my session will help you for prelims as well as mains for 2020 as well as 2021 prelims and mains examinations. And today we will get into the topic, that is daily news analysis. Today's daily news analysis, that is 23rd, and I would once again reiterate and re-emphasize my tagline, that is Sandeep Bhushan's tagline, that is emphasizing on the keywords and the key phrases, which will be certainly useful for prelims as well as mains examinations, and definitely you will be comfortable while you are in the interview also. And the quote of the day is, success doesn't find you, you have to go out and get it. Success doesn't just find you, you have to go out and get it. So before I get into the topic, I would say a very good morning to you all, to everyone who is in the live chat and also in the live. Hemant, Malavika, Nandita Tepa, Praveen Kumar, Harika Yadav, Madhu, Ashwini Kumar, Dulaya, Gopi Nayak, Bhavani, everyone, very good morning to you all. And then I would once again say the quote of the day, reiterate the quote of the day, that is, success doesn't find you, it will not find you, success will not find you, you have to go out and get it. So it is very important that you have to do your extra bit, you have to certainly go ahead with having or believing or imagining the dream, believing in yourself and achieving your dream, and only then you will attain success. And for success you need to go out and get it. That means you need to definitely get into the mode of going out and getting it. So I like this. So this is the quote of the day, and we'll get into the daily news analysis. And the news which is in today's newspaper is, Supreme Court will hear today Rajasthan Speaker's plea against High Court order. Okay, fine. This we have discussed yesterday, but it was in regards to the Rajasthan High Court. Yesterday we have discussed, but it was in regards to the Rajasthan High Court, which has asked the Speaker of Rajasthan or Speaker of the Rajasthan Assembly, saying that the Rajasthan High Court has asked the Speaker not to take any action until July 24th. Until July 24th. So it was very clearly stated that when the Speaker of the House, that is the Speaker of the Rajasthan Assembly, has given a notice, please do understand, he has given a notice for disqualification of 19 MLAs. This yesterday we have discussed. And in regards to that, Rajasthan High Court has given a statement saying that please do not take any action against the 19 MLAs up till 24th July. Up till 24th July. And I also made it very clear yesterday that the Congress party, that is INC, Indian National Congress party, was going ahead with the review petition. It was planning for the review petition. I said it yesterday. It was going ahead with planning a review petition. And it also made it very clear that the High Court statement, Rajasthan High Court statement, is against the discretionary powers of the Speaker. I said it yesterday. The Congress party was saying that that the Rajasthan High Court statement is against the discretionary powers of the speaker, and also said that Congress party is actually going ahead with making sure that they will go ahead with the review petition. So based on this, I mean yesterday's explanation, now we'll get into the today's topic. We'll get into the today's news. So what is today's news is that the speaker has gone ahead with, that is Rajasthan Speaker Office has challenged, Rajasthan Speaker's Office has challenged what? As we have discussed yesterday, challenged what? Challenged the Rajasthan High Court order. Has challenged the Rajasthan High Court, and in regards to the challenging of the Rajasthan High Court, the Rajasthan Speaker's Office, please do understand, Rajasthan Speaker's Office has filed an appeal in Supreme Court of India. Please do understand this important. So Rajasthan High Court has given an order saying that please do not take any action against the 19 MLAs up till July 24. That is what it was said to the Speaker, Rajasthan High Court. And the Rajasthan Speaker's Office has challenged the Rajasthan High Court's order and appealed a petition in Supreme Court of India. And now the Supreme Court of India is scheduled to hear on July 23rd. That is today. Please do understand. Because the Rajasthan Speaker's Office has challenged the Rajasthan High Court order against 19 MLAs, not to take any action against 19 MLAs. So the Rajasthan Speaker's Office has appealed in the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court will hear that case appeal on, that is today, July 23rd, 2020. This is very important point. So now the entire issue is from the Rajasthan High Court to the Supreme Court of India, and what is very important is here, yesterday Rahul was asking me, sir, can High Court interfere? And I said yesterday also that you need to get into the mode of understanding for the prelims and mains point of view, that here the High Court has intervened or interfered into what? The disqualification order, has interfered into the disqualification order which was given by the Speaker of Rajasthan Assembly, Please do understand. Here the High Court has interfered. So now the question here is, as yesterday Rahul has asked, sir, can the High Court interfere? He has asked. And what I said is, yes, the High Court or the Supreme Court can interfere whenever there is, no government is not functioning. When government is not functioning, I said when the government is not functioning, so definitely the High Court or the Supreme Court will interfere in regards to making sure that the government has to function, or else the High Court or the Supreme Court will interfere whenever the government of the day has to prove its majority. That is about the floor test, or no confidence motion. So whenever the speaker or the government of the day is trying to evade in the sense not to go ahead with the floor test or no confidence motion, in that case the High Court and the Supreme Court can interfere, I said yesterday. And Rahul has asked a very good question yesterday, that can it interfere, and that is what the Rajasthan Speaker Office is now challenging, or filed a petition challenging against the order, that is Rajasthan's High Court order in the Supreme Court. And then the speaker is saying that the High Court has crossed, Rajasthan High Court has crossed Lakshmana Rekha. Why? Because as I said yesterday, the disqualification of the MLAs, legislators, is the discretionary power, I said yesterday, is the discretionary power of the speaker. is the discretionary power of the speaker. So when it is the discretionary power of the speaker, so what is very important is now the speaker is saying that, now the speaker is saying that how can the High Court cross the Lakshmana Rekha, asking the speaker to put off his decision. And the decision was in regards to what? Just providing a notice. He hasn't disqualified. Please do understand, the Rajasthan speaker did not disqualify. He had just issued a notice of disqualification. That is what the speaker is saying. When I haven't disqualified, I have just issued a notice of disqualification to the 19 MLAs, and when I've issued a notice, there has to be a response from the 19 MLAs. But when there is just an issue of the notice of the disqualification, how can the High Court get into the entire matter of what the speaker has to do? So that is what is important. So here the keyword is, how can the High Court cross over the Lakshmana Rekha and ask the speaker, because the speaker has the right to in regards to disqualification. And I said the process, the speaker can go ahead with taking up the process by paragraph 2. Yesterday I said paragraph 2 of 10th schedule or anti-defection law. Paragraph 2 of the 10th schedule in regards to the anti-defection law. So as per the paragraph 2 of the anti-defection law, the Speaker of the House, that is Rajasthan Speaker, has issued the notice for the disqualification of 19 MLAs so that the 19 MLAs will come forward and then go ahead with the explanation. And in regards to the other one is the Mr. Pilot, that is Sachin Pilot, has filed a caveat in the sense warning or cautioning petition in the court saying nothing should be done. So Sachin Pilot has also gone ahead with filing a petition. What petition is that? That is caveat petition. What do you mean by caveat petition? Caveat means it is warning or cautioning. So who is warning or cautioning? Sachin Pilot is warning or cautioning the government or the speaker itself, that without notifying them first. So what is important is caveat petition, and then the speaker, Rajasthan speaker challenging the Rajasthan High Court order in the Supreme Court. And the speaker has said that the High Court's interim order has granted extended time, and this is in regards to the anti-defection law. And what the speaker says is it is violation of Article 212. Now this is very important. So what is the keyword is Article 212 is what is very important for you in regards to the prelims point of view. So what the speaker has said is the High Court's interim order for giving extra time to the 19 MLAs up to July 24th and asking the speaker not to take action is in violation of Article 212. Okay, Ashwini Kumar says, sir, issuing notices is not notification. No, it is just, see, here the speaker, Ashwini, the speaker has given the notice. That means he has sent a notice. He has sent a notice to whom? 19 MLAs. For, what do you say, asking them or asking them for the reply. That the notice is what? Notice is disqualification. See, here the speaker did not disqualify. Please do understand, the speaker did not disqualify the 19 MLAs. He has sent a notice to the 19 MLAs in regards to disqualification. So what the 19 MLAs have to do? They have to write a letter or give a reply to the speaker. That why are you disqualifying? And you cannot disqualify on so and so grounds. That is what the reply has to be given by the 19 MLAs to the speaker. But instead they have approached the court, and the High Court has, what do you say, given an interim order to the speaker not to take any action in regards to disqualification against 19 MLAs. So that is what it is. It is just the speaker has given the notice notice. He has given the notice to the 19 MLS. And what is here important is Article 212 for prelims point of view, because the Speaker of the House, that is the Rajasthan Speaker, he is saying that the High Court interim order is in violation of 212. So what does Article 212 says? It says courts not to inquire into the proceedings of the legislators, so the legislature. So this is very important. So what does Article 212 says? Courts do not inquire into the proceedings. So there were proceedings, or there is proceedings which is proceeding which is going ahead in the House. So when the proceedings are going ahead, the High Court do not have any, what do you say, action, or cannot take any action or give any order against the Speaker, because it is a discretionary power of the Speaker. And the Speaker's office have argued that whatever the proceedings are as per the paragraph 6 of 2 of the 10th schedule. So here again Article 212 and again paragraph 6 of 2. Yesterday I was talking about paragraph 6 of 2 of the 10th schedule. The process is been, in regards to process of disqualification, is been taken up by the Speaker, is taken up by the Speaker. So this is very important. Yesterday we did talk about 10th schedule. Yesterday for prelims it was 10th schedule, and then in regards to anti-defection law 1984, and then 52nd Amendment Act, and again one-third of the, for merger one-third of the MLAs are required. Again in 1992 again two-third has been increased, and here again Article 212 is very important. And we will look at on what basis now the Speaker is saying that, on what basis the Speaker is saying that the High Court cannot interfere into the Speaker's decision is based on, we will go back to the case, that is 1992 case, that is the case between Kyoto Holohan versus Zachilu. So this is very important for prelims again. So here the case, what we will be looking at, the case or the judgment by the Supreme Court in the case in 1992. So the case is in 1992 between Kyoto Holohan versus Zachilu and others in 1992. So again this is in regards to the discretionary powers. So this case was also in regards to the discretionary powers of the Speakers, power of the Speaker. So the case, we will go back to the 1992 case between Kyoto Holohan versus Zachilu and others, wherein the Supreme Court, the top court, has said that, or upheld, the top court has upheld in the sense support or confirmed the sweeping discretionary powers available to the Speaker in regards to the disqualification of MLAs. Please do understand here. This is very, very important for prelims point of view, polity prelims point of view. There might be a question not on what is going on now, but there would be a question on what basis or which of the following cases the Supreme Court has upheld the sweeping discretionary powers of the Speakers in regards to the disqualification of the MLAs is, which among the following case? It is Kyoto Holohan versus Zachilu and others in 1992 case. So the top court has said, or it has upheld in the sense it has supported. What it has supported? The sweeping discretionary powers of the Speaker in regards to the disqualification of the MLAs. And Srujan Kasturi has joined, Krishnaveni has joined, Anjanelu has joined, Santosh Kumar has joined. Very good morning to you all. So what is important for prelims point of view is Kyoto Holohan versus Zachilu and others 1992 case. And then the Speaker's office. Now Speaker's office is trying to bring back that 1992 case, which the top court or this Supreme Court has made it very clear that the discretionary powers of the Speaker, they have supported the discretionary powers of the Speaker. and we will look at what did the Supreme Court actually look at in 1992 in the case of what we discussed, that is in regards to Kyoto Holuan versus Zachilo. Kyoto Holuan versus Zachulu and others in 1992. The principal question, please do understand, in 1992, the Supreme Court has looked at the principal question, that is whether the speaker has violated, the doctrine of basic structure. Please do understand again. So here, what is important for you all? The keyword what you need to focus, you as a civil servant aspirants, is that the doctrine of basic structure was actually looked at, or the doctrine of the basic structure was focused by the Supreme Court of India, in 1992, where in regards to the, as I said, this case, Kyoto Holuan versus Zachilo. That is Kyoto Holuan versus Zachilo and others case. So, what is important is not just what is been said about Kyoto Holuan versus Zachilo and others in 1992. No, what did the Supreme Court look at that moment, based on what the Supreme Court has said that yes, in 1992 the Supreme Court has said that, or the Supreme Court has supported. What it has supported in 1992, the Supreme Court has supported the discretionary powers of the speaker. And it was based on what? The doctrine of basic structure. Please do understand. The Supreme Court has supported the discretionary powers of the speaker in the Kyoto Holuan versus Zachilo and others in 1992, based on doctrine of basic structure. Based on, this is very important, based on doctrine of basic structure. What does this basic structure says? That the judicial principle that certain basic features of the constitution cannot be altered or amended by parliament. That is what it says. What does the doctrine of basic structure says? That the basic features, it says the basic features of the constitution, of the preamble, cannot be altered or amended. This is very important, amended. So based on the basics, based on the doctrine of basic structure, that what does it says is the basic features of the constitution of the preamble cannot be altered and amended, and it has focused that the discretionary powers of the speaker doesn't violate the doctrine of basic structure. Please do understand, the discretionary powers of the speaker has not or is not violating the doctrine of the basic structure. That is what it said. And when did the judiciary talk about the basic structure or the doctrine of the basic structure or the basic features of the Indian constitution cannot be altered or amended? It was decided in the Keshavananda Bharati case versus State of Kerala in 1973. This is very, very important. So the basic structure or the doctrine of basic structure was decided in the landmark judgment called as Keshavananda Bharati versus State of Kerala 1973. So these are all very, very important. So 1992 Kyoto Holuan versus Zachilo case, when the Supreme Court said that it has supported the sweeping discretionary powers of the speaker. Not only that, it has also looked at the doctrine of the basic structures, based on the basic structure, that the basic structures are not violated by the speaker, and that has been mentioned in the landmark judgment of the Keshavananda Bharati versus State of Kerala in 1973. So this is very, very important for the prelims point of view. We have looked at various keywords. Please do understand and please make a mention in your notebook. Keshavananda Bharati versus State of Kerala 1973, basic structure was mentioned there, and then 1992 case. And Rahul has joined. Rahul, actually I was explaining about what you have said yesterday, that why the High Court is intervening, why the High Court is intervening in the Supreme Court's decision. That is what I have explained. You can just follow the recorded course if you have missed something. Fine. And then the next news is in regards to India, China not to use UAV. What is UAV? It is unmanned aerial vehicles. So both India and China cannot use, both together they have decided that they cannot use UAV, that is unmanned aerial vehicles. Unmanned aerial vehicles where they cannot use along the LAC, which they have mutually agreed for a short period of time. And these aerial objects cannot be used where along the LAC, or almost 10 kilometers along the LAC, almost 10 kilometers along the LAC. And we have seen what that LAC, the rupture or the face off between India and China, we have seen that has taken place at Galwan Valley, or else at the hot springs, and then at the Pyeongangso Lake. Pyeongangso Lake. So just this is what is a recapping where the face off or the skirmish between Indian troops and Chinese troops have taken place at the LAC, that is at the Galwan Valley, hot springs, or you can call it as Gogra, 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 and then Pyeongangso Lake, that is Finger 4, wherein it has taken place, the entire. And the Chinese troops are still, they haven't still moved out of patrolling point 15 in the hot spring areas, and they are still continue to occupy within 1.5 kilometers of Indian perception of LAC. That means still they haven't totally moved out of the Indian territory. Still within Indian territory 1.5 kilometers they are still patrolling. That means the Chinese troops are still there and the discussion is still going on, and part of it is that India and China have agreed that they will not use the unmanned aerial vehicles along the LAC for almost 10 kilometers. And this just what you say Finger 4, wherein they cannot use it. I mean, this is the area wherein the Chinese troops are still patrolling here. And then this is Galwan Valley, this is hot spring area, this is Pyeongangso Lake. So these are the areas wherein you have here at PP 14, that is patrolling point 14 at the hot spring area. So Galwan Valley Junction, Pyeonggang. So this is Pyeonggang Lake. This is Pyeonggang Lake. So this I've given, and Finger 1 to Finger 4, as I said, the India controls, and from Finger 4 to Finger 8, India, what you say, it goes ahead with the patrols. And Finger 8 at this point, China has the control and the patrol till Finger 2. And the bone of contention is now at the Finger 4 to Finger 5 between. So this is the area wherein on May 2020 the face off between Indian troops and then Chinese troops has taken place. But it was in Galwan Valley. It was in Galwan Valley wherein our brave 20 Indian soldiers were martyred in Galwan Valley. And there is another news which talks about reinstate Ramesh Kumar as SEC, Governor tells AP. So here State Election Commission. Why this is keyword is Commissioner. This is a keyword again for prelims point of view. This is a keyword for polity prelims point of view. State Election Commission. So we all know that there was, what do you say, on May 29th, the Andhra Pradesh High Court has given a judgment that Nimmagadda Ramesh Kumar has to be reinstated. Reinstated in the sense, again, he has to be given the position of State Election Commissioner as State Election Commissioner. Please do understand, on May 29th, the AP High Court on May 29th, 2020, it has said, or it has given a judgment saying that the Nimmagadda Ramesh Kumar has to be reinstated. Why? Because he was taken out as a State Election Commissioner by the Andhra Pradesh government. Please do understand, he was removed as the State Election Commissioner by the Andhra Pradesh government. Then later on, Nimmagadda Ramesh Kumar has approached the High Court and the High Court has given a judgment in favor of Nimmagadda Ramesh Kumar, saying that it has directed the Andhra Pradesh government to reinstate in the sense again give back the same position of State Election Commissioner to Nimmagadda Prasad or Nimmagadda Ramesh Kumar. I'm extremely sorry. Nimmagadda Ramesh Kumar as the State Election Commissioner. Fine. This is of May 29th. So we will look at the chronological order. May 29th, the AP High Court has ordered the Andhra Pradesh High Court, Andhra Pradesh government to reinstate the Nimmagadda Ramesh Kumar as a State Election Commissioner. Fine. And now we will look at later on again July 17th, 2020. July 17, 2020, Mr. Ramesh Kumar or Nimmagadda Ramesh Kumar has gone ahead with filing an contempt petition. Contempt petition. Please do understand. He has filed a contempt petition in the High Court. He has filed a contempt petition on July 17th. What do you mean by contempt? Contempt means disrespect. Contempt means disrespect. So, Nimmagadda Ramesh Kumar, the former, then I am talking about on July 17th, then the former State Election Commissioner of Andhra Pradesh has approached the High Courts and filed the contempt petition. Contempt means disrespect, filed by Ramesh Kumar. And then when he has filed the case on July 17th, the High Court has said he has or he was at liberty to represent his case. And then again, not only in contempt of petition, he has filed he has gone ahead with contempt of petition, and then again the High Court has said that yes, Nimmagadda Ramesh Kumar has the right to, or he has the liberty what to represent his case to governor. So please look at from where to where the entire case is going on. From the Andhra Pradesh government to the High Court, to the High Court to again to governor. Fine. First one, second one and third one. Again on July 20. On July 20, Mr. Ramesh Kumar has met the governor, Why? Because he wanted to make it very clear that, or he wanted to represent his case to the governor. And again on July 21st, 2020, on July 21st, 2020, the governor has written a letter. Governor has written a letter to AP government or AP state government saying that to implement the High Court judgment. So this is very, very important. The chronology is very important. May 29, 2020, the Andhra Pradesh High Court has given a judgment in favor of Nimmagadda Ramesh Kumar that the Andhra Pradesh government has to reinstate Ramesh Kumar as the State Election Commission. But the Andhra Pradesh government did not reinstate Ramesh Kumar as the State Election Commissioner. So in turn, what has happened on July 17, 2020, Ramesh Kumar has filed a contempt petition, and later on the High Court has said that yes, Ramesh Kumar has the liberty to meet the governor, and in turn Ramesh Kumar has met the governor and he wanted to represent his case. And on July 20, he has met the governor, and July 21, 2020, the governor has written a letter to the state government, that is Andhra Pradesh state government, to implement the High Court judgment. What do you mean by to implement the High Court judgment? That means the governor is saying the state government, the Andhra Pradesh governor has written a letter to the Andhra Pradesh state government to implement the May 29th High Court judgment to reinstate Nimmagadda Ramesh Kumar as the State Election Commissioner. This is very, very important. Okay, P. Ramesh has joined. Very good morning to you. And then Nandita Tepa says, sir, does government have the power to remove or take action against election commissioner? Yes, we will look at it. Yes, definitely, we will look at it. How the government has, taken that decision. We will look at that. So the governor's direction came at a time. So now the governor has given the direction. Direction in the sense he has written a letter to the state government of AP. AP state government, he has written a letter. And this is at a time when a special leave petition is filed. by the AP state government against, please do understand here, it's very important, what is the concept application, against the AP High Court. Please do understand why, because the AP High Court has given a judgment on May 29th to reinstate Nimmagadda Ramesh Kumar as the state election commission, wherein the state government, that is the Andhra Pradesh state government, has removed him from the state election commissioner post. Fine. So for that, the AP state government has filed a special leave petition against the AP High Court verdict. Against the AP High Court verdict. For why? Because they wanted a stay. Stay in the sense what? That it has to be, whatever situation is, they have to follow it. Stay in the sense, whatever situation, that is at that moment. What is at that moment? That Nimmagadda Ramesh Kumar is no more the no more the state election commissioner. So they wanted to go ahead with, they have filed a special leave petition against the High Court verdict for stay of contempt proceedings. Why? Because Nimmagadda Ramesh Kumar has gone ahead with filing a petition, that is contempt petition. I said, what do you mean by contempt? Contempt means disrespect. That is what. Now you will get the answer, Nandita Tepal. So there was a disrespect against the state election commission by the state government, that is Andhra Pradesh state government. So in that regards, Nimmagadda Ramesh Kumar has filed a contempt petition in the High Court. So that for that, the government, state government, has gone ahead with special leave petition against the High Court verdict and against, what do you say, for the stay or the contempt proceedings, and which was initiated by, as I said, it was actually taken by Ramesh Kumar, or pending disposable in the Supreme Court. So the contempt petition is filed in the Supreme Court by Nimmagadda Ramesh Kumar against the state government for not reinstating him, that is disrespecting the High Court verdict, for disrespecting the High Court verdict. I think you are getting it. This is very, very important understanding. And what has done is, the government, the AP government has come up with AP Panchayat Raj Second Amendment Ordinance. Please do understand. The High Court on May 29 struck down. So how did the, for you Nandita Tepal, how did the government has the power to take out, or to, what do you say, remove the election commissioner? Actually, election commissioner, he has the tenure of 5 years. State election commissioner has the tenure in the sense, the time period of 5 years. But what has happened is, AP government has come up with an ordinance of what? AP Panchayat Raj Second Amendment Ordinance 2020, and that ordinance has curtailed, or it has brought down, or it has reduced, curtailed in the sense reduced. What it has reduced? Reduced 5 years to 3 years of the tenure of the state election commissioner, wherein Nimmagadda Ramesh Kumar was the state election commissioner, because there was some kind of disturbance between the state election commission and the AP government in regards to the conducting of the elections, during the COVID-19 or during COVID-19 time. So that was not liked by the AP government, and the AP government has come up with the ordinance. Which ordinance is that? This is very important for prelims point of view. The keyword here, the ordinance. Which ordinance is that? AP Panchayat Raj Second Amendment Ordinance 2020, and the High Court has struck down, which has brought in reducing the tenure of the Chief Election Commissioner from 5 years to 3 years, and Nimmagadda Ramesh was substituted by the appointment of Madras High Court retired judge of the Madras High Court, V. Kanagaraj. Now V. Kanagaraj is the new State Election Commissioner of AP. So this is very important. What we have looked at is the keywords is the governor has come in point, and then a high court verdict point, and then contempt petition by Nimmagadda in the Supreme Court point, and then the special leave petition filed by the AP state government, and then governor directing, please do understand, governor directing the AP state government to implement the May 29th High Court verdict. So there's lot which has taken place in regards to the State Election Commission. So what is important is the State Election Commission and entire process of the ordinance. What the AP government has come up with the ordinance. Nandita Tepa says that sir, Election Commission is an independent body. Yes, independent body. How can the government through ordinance change the term of Election Commission? That is what it has come up with the ordinance, but it was challenged. That is what I am saying. It has come up with the ordinance, but it was, what is specially petition? It is a petition which wanted to go ahead with the government, wanted to go ahead with making sure that they go ahead with giving some time by the High Court. I mean, what the High Court verdict and for the stay. They are bargaining the time. Ashwani Kumar. And the ordinance which was taken up by the AP High Court is challenged in the High Court, and the High Court has said it no, as it is an independent body or a statutory body, so it cannot be removed by any governments because the tenure is what fixed 5 years. Okay, on the disciplinary action you can, but not by the ordinance or by in regards to the referendum, only in regards to that. So I think Nandita has also understood it. And the another news is PM Modi invites US firms to invest in India. So what is the keyword here is US India Business Council. US India Business Council is a keyword. So our Prime Minister Narendra Modi has addressed US India Business Council and he has invited the US companies. He has invited the US companies to invest in India. So you might be getting a doubt that our Prime Minister Narendra Modi is inviting the foreign companies, or here in this case, in regards to the US India Business Council, he is inviting the US companies to invest in India. But at the same time, we are going, our Prime Minister is very much focused on be vocal about local. He has spoken about be vocal about local. That is Atmanirbhar Bharat scheme. Atmanirbhar Bharat scheme. So what is very important is the government or the Prime Minister is very much focused on developing or strengthening the local manufacturing units. At the same time, he is not stopping the foreign investors. He is not stopping the foreign investors to invest in India. No, he is inviting the foreign investors to invite in India, but at the same time, simultaneously, parallelly, our Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, wanted to strengthen the local manufacturing units or indigenous manufacturing units. Please do understand. He wanted to strengthen the indigenous manufacturing units. So what is important is you need to link both Atmanirbhar Bharat scheme or being vocal about local plus inviting the US companies. So he is wanting, or he has invited the US companies to invest in India while addressing the US India Business Council, and he wanted them to invest in healthcare, infrastructure, defense, energy, and farm and insurance sector. Please do understand, and these are very, very important for you. These are all keywords. Please do understand. Investing in which areas are the keywords for you while you're writing your mains or prelims. It is very important for prelims as well as mains examination. Why? Because healthcare. India is a pharmaceutical hub of the world. So they would come and invest in India. Healthcare, infrastructure, defense, energy, farm and insurance sector. So he wanted the US companies to invest in these areas or these sectors. Why? Because he says that in India, why he says this? Because there is a global optimism towards India. So he is saying that there is global optimism. This is very important keyword. There is a global optimism. That means there is a positive trend towards India, the foreign investors investing in India. There is a global opportunity or optimism. So definitely he has focused on the global optimism towards India is based on the combination of three, what do you say, O's, three O's. Three O's. What are the three O's? That is openness, opportunities and option. Please do understand. Openness, opportunities and option. These are all very important keywords. And whenever our Prime Minister, he takes up with this, what do you say, the combination he takes up with this. So openness is there in India. He says there are various opportunities for the global investors or the US companies to invest in India, and there are various options for the US companies to invest in healthcare, infrastructure, defense, energy, farm and insurance sector. And he has also said that India has really gone ahead with economic resilience after or else during the period of COVID-19 pandemic situation. Resilience in the sense recover. So he's making it very clear that Indian economy has recovered. Indian economy has recovered even though because of the COVID-19 situation, and he said that we have achieved stronger domestic economic capacity. So this is very important. Stronger domestic economic capacity. So how India has gone ahead with economic resilience, resilience in the sense recover. How India has recovered economy, that the economy which has been shattered because of the COVID-19 or because of the global supply chain system was totally shattered across the globe. So because of stronger domestic economic capacity, this keyword is very important. How did India achieve the economic resilience? India has achieved the economic resilience through stronger domestic economic capacity. So we will look at what are the stronger domestic economic capacities, because these are the areas where you need to focus. That is the keywords and the key phrases wherein you need to focus, and we will look at that. The stronger domestic economic capacities are based on improved domestic capacity. Improved domestic capacity. How? Being vocal about local. How? Because being vocal about local. Protecting or concentrating or supporting the indigenous manufacturing units. By that, we have improved domestic capacity for manufacturing. And the second one is restoring the health of financial system. So our financial system has been restored back because of the COVID-19 pandemic situation, what it has actually come down or it has hit back. And the third one is diversification of international trade. Diversification, that means extending to various areas in regards to the international trade. So what is important here is for the prelims and mains point of view, because which among the following, or which among the question is which among the following is not part of the stronger domestic economic capacities for economic resilience in India. So which is the one is improved domestic capacity for manufacturing, and then restoring the health of financial system, and in regards to the diversification of international trade. So this is what you said, three areas how we have gone ahead with stronger domestic economic capacities by making sure that we have had economic resilience. Resilience in the sense, as I said, recovered. How we have recovered our economy, which was actually tipping. And he has said our Indian economy now is more open and reform oriented. So he says that Indian economy now So we know that in the initial days, Indian economy was, what do you say, mixed economy or open economy. Now it is more open plus reform oriented. Please do understand, this is very important keyword. Indian economy, as per what our Prime Minister Narendra Modi is saying, is Indian economy is not a mixed economy or open economy. He says Indian economy is now more open and reform oriented. More open and reform oriented our Indian economy is. And how the reforms will take place, have taken place? Reforms have taken place by ensuring that there is more increase of competitiveness, there is more transparency, there is more digitalization, innovation and policy stability. Please do mention in your notebook. Please do mention in your notebook about all this, because how the reforms, Mr. Modi has emphasized that Indian economy is more open and reform oriented. How reforms have been ensured? It has been ensured by increased competitiveness, by transparency, by digitalization, by innovation and policy stability. These are all very important keywords which you can use it in your mains answer. How our Indian economy has shifted to more open and reform oriented. Please do understand how I am taking up this for prelims as well as mains point of view, and all these keywords and the key phrases, please do make sure that you are writing in your, what do you say, while you are listening to this lecture. Please do mention or pen down or you write it in your answer, I mean in your book or paper, whichever you are carrying. And this is again an additional information which I have taken for prelims point of view, that is for the civil servant aspirants. So US India Business Council, USIBC. USIBC was formed in the year 1975 at the request of US and Indian government. And what it is Business Advisory Organization. It is a US India Business Council is an advisory or advocacy organization. That means it advocates what kind of ties India and US have to take place in regards to the commercial in the sense trade and investments, in regards to the trade and investment. So it is a business advocacy organization in regards to the trade and investments between US and India, and it is the largest bilateral trade association. It is the largest USIBC, that is US India Business Council, is the largest bilateral trade association. And what is very important here is, for prelims point of view, the headquarters, it is based in Washington. It is based in Washington DC, and it has global presence in New York, San Francisco and New Delhi, and also in Mumbai. This is very important. Prelims: which among the following areas it is headquartered and it has a global presence in which among the following areas? That is New York, San Francisco, New Delhi and Mumbai. Two in US, two in India. One in New Delhi and other one is in Mumbai. And who is the president of the USIBC? Nisha Biswal. She is Nisha Biswal. She is the president or chairman of the US India Business Council. So it was formed in 1975 and it is a business advocacy organization in which deals in regards to the US India commercial ties, that is in regards to trade and investment, and it is the largest, USIBC is the largest bilateral trade association, and it is headquartered in Washington DC, and it has its global presence in New York, San Francisco in US and New Delhi and Mumbai in India. And who is the president of USIBC? It is Nisha Biswal. These are all very important for prelims point of view. That is why I have given an additional information both for UPSC and also state public service commissions. And there is another news which talks about Afghan goods arrive via Athari Wagah. So you have the Athari Wagah border. This is Athari Wagah. So border between India and it is between India and Pakistan. But we will look at something wherein the news is between Pakistan and Afghanistan or Afghanistan and Pakistan. It is in regards to the Afghanistan-Pakistan trade. It is between India, Afghanistan-Pakistan trade, transit. What do you mean by transit? Transit is the path, or you can say the corridor, the path or the corridor. Transit is a movement. So the news is that the trucks from Afghanistan, they have crossed over Pakistan and they have come near Athari Wagah border. So the trucks are carrying the goods to India. The trucks from Afghanistan, they pass through Pakistan. So from Afghanistan they pass through Pakistan and they get into India. But they have to stop at Athari Wagah border. And this actually in the month of March, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, the trade has been suspended. The trade, that is the movement of the vehicles from Afghanistan to India, wherein they carry the goods via Pakistan, that is through Pakistan, has been suspended because of the COVID-19 pandemic in March. But now again we have gone ahead with, what do you say, opening up the goods which were suspended between the trade which was suspended between Afghanistan and India via Pakistan, and they were now allowed. Afghanistan trucks which were carrying goods were allowed to, what do you say, have the trade with India. But they are stopped at the Athari Wagah border. I'll show you the map, don't worry. So this is the border, Athari Wagah border from our side. Fine. And this, now the Afghanistan trucks which are carrying the goods which have to come to India, or the trade with India, they have been allowed based on what? Pakistan Afghanistan transit trade agreement. This is very, very important. As per Pakistan Afghanistan transit trade agreement, transit in the sense movement, corridor or the path, which trade agreement between Pakistan and Afghanistan has taken place. And based on that, this is very important, the keyword here is Pakistan Afghanistan transit trade agreement between Pakistan and Afghanistan. And what does India do? They actually, what you say, import in major junk, that is the dry fruits and the herbal items, they import from Afghanistan. And especially the food items from Afghanistan are almonds, raisins, fig, apricots, mulathi, and then spices, which are all, what you say, the Indian traders are dealing, or they get into the trade with the Afghan foods which comes from Afghanistan to India, that is almonds, raisin, fig, because they're all, what you said, dry fruits, apricots, mulathi, and spices. Dry fruits plus herbal items. So herbal items are spices and herbal items, and dry fruits are almond, raisins, fig, apricot. So what is important here, the keyword is the Athari Wagah border and then Pakistan Afghanistan transit trade agreement. So now we will look at Afghanistan, or we will look at, this is an additional information I am giving again here for prelims point of view. This is additional information for prelims point of view. So this Afghanistan-Pakistan transit trade agreement is a bilateral trade. Between Afghanistan and Pakistan. Fine. And it has been signed between Afghanistan and Pakistan in the year 2010. But when they have signed in the 2010, that is Afghanistan and Pakistan having the bilateral trade has been signed in 2010. But there was, I mean, 2010 agreement supersedes. That means it takes over the agreement which was signed in 1965, which was signed in 1965. That is Afghanistan Transit Trade Agreement. So you have the Afghanistan Transit Trade Agreement, that whatever the agreement, that is Afghanistan Pakistan Transit Trade Agreement between Afghanistan and Pakistan, which was signed in 2010, supersedes. That means it takes over the Afghanistan Transit Trade Agreement, which Afghanistan has. It has in the year 1965, and they can go ahead with trading. Both the countries can go ahead with trading using each other's airports, railways, roads, and ports. But they are all designated transit corridors. Please do understand, the bilateral trade which was signed in 2010, but this 2010 agreement supersedes. That means it takes over. Takes over control over 1965 Afghanistan Transit Trade Agreement. So 1965 Afghanistan Transit Trade Agreement is superseded by 2010 Afghanistan Pakistan Transit Trade Agreement. So now you do not have the 1965 Afghanistan Transit Trade Agreement. That is been superseded by APTTA, that is Afghanistan Pakistan Transit Trade Agreement. And this, what is happening here is, as per this Afghanistan Pakistan Transit Trade Agreement, the Afghanistan can have trade with India, and the Afghanistan trucks can bring in the goods, and then they can, what do you say, go ahead with selling it to India, trade with India. But what is happening is, the Pakistan has given the permission to the Afghanistan trucks that they have the access only up to Wagah border, that is at the Indian side, wherein at the Wagah border, the Afghanistan trucks which are coming up with the goods, they have to be offloaded. That means unloading of the goods, unloading has to take place. The Afghan trucks which they come up with the goods have to be unloaded. Again, these goods which are unloaded should be loaded into the Indian trucks at the Wagah border. At the Wagah border, please do understand, the Afghanistan, as per the Afghanistan Pakistan Transit Trade Agreement, the Afghanistan truck cannot enter into India completely. But what happens is, at the Wagah border, they have to unload the goods. That goods again will be loaded into the Indian trucks, and again it gets into India. Please do understand, this is very, very important. And it does not permit Indian goods to be loaded. Not only that, again the Afghan trucks, now when they are unloaded, that means the Afghan trucks are empty. Afghan trucks are empty. These Afghan trucks which are empty cannot be loaded with the Indian goods. Please do understand, they cannot be loaded. First of all, the Afghan trucks have to be unloaded. The goods which they are getting it from the Afghanistan, when they reach the Achari Wagah border or Wagah border of Indian side, all the items have to be unloaded, and again that has to be loaded into the Indian trucks. And when it is unloaded, Afghan trucks are unloaded. When they are empty, what happens is that empty Afghan trucks cannot be loaded by the Indian goods. Cannot be loaded by the Indian goods. They can be loaded only by the Pakistani goods. Loaded only by the Pakistani goods. Otherwise, return empty. Return empty. So this is as per the Afghanistan Pakistan Transit Trade Agreement, which is very, very important for prelims as well as mains conceptual understanding. Please do understand the importance of why I am taking this extra effort to make you understand all this is because you will have certainly factual, analytical, and conceptual understanding from my lecture. And this is what I am expecting, that you all should be equipped with extra additional information, wherein you will not miss a question in the prelims as well as mains. You have to score more marks, and this is what it is. So it is from, this is Afghanistan, Pakistan, India. So this is Wagah border. So the trucks which comes from, what do you say, actually from Afghanistan, they get into Pakistan and then into India. So here, if you look at, see here, this is India, Pakistan, and then Afghanistan. So the trucks are coming to the Wagah border. So they come from various places. So you have the Chaman Spin Boldak area, Angur Adda, and then Gulam Khan, Torkham, Karlachi, and Khyber Pass. So from these areas which are bordering Afghanistan and Pakistan, from that transit point, they can, what do you say, the Afghanistan trucks or Afghan trucks can enter into India, that is at Wagah. Please do understand, this is Wagah border, Indian side. So these trucks, please do understand, these trucks, they are coming towards India and then they will be unloaded or unloaded at the Wagah, and then Indian trucks will be loaded and then they get into India and different parts of India. So this is what it is about Afghanistan Pakistan transit trade agreement. As per that, they cannot, Afghan trucks cannot directly enter into India. They have to offload or unload at the Wagah border. And this is what I am giving an extra information which will be very, very useful for you in regards to the APTTA trade between Afghanistan and Pakistan. And the question for the day is, in India, students of higher education are expected to play a constructive role in shaping the society and the world at large, society and the world at large, using the values and ideals of the modern, progressive society. I repeat, in India, students of higher education are expected to play a constructive role in shaping the society and the world at large. How? By using values and ideals of the modern and progressive society. Semicolon. The teaching learning process, this is very important. The teaching learning process is expected to mold their character accordingly. The teaching learning process is expected to mold their character accordingly. I repeat the question once again. In India, students of higher education, the students of higher education are expected to play a constructive role in shaping the society and the world at large, using the values and ideals of the modern progressive society. Semicolon. The teaching learning process is expected to mold their character accordingly. Discuss. This is for mains. Why did I take this for mains? Because this will be in the mains, in the general essay. Because general essay is the one, whoever scores, the civil servant aspirant who scores maximum marks in essay, general essay, will be the toppers. Top 50 or top 100 are the one who have got or who have scored maximum marks in general essay. And why in general essay? In the education topic. So please do understand how am I focusing or giving the question for the mains. That is based on the higher education, again which is part of the general essay mains examinations. It could be UPSC or also the State Public Service Commission, especially AP or Telangana. You can get into. So what is important is we have looked at constructive role of the students. Please do understand here in the higher education, we are talking about the constructive role of students. Please do understand that is how linking you need to make the constructive role of the students in India in higher education. They are expected to shape the society and the world at large by what? By using the values and ideals of the modern progressive society. Using the values and ideals of the modern progressive society, they should, what do you say, shape the society and the world. Not only that, the teaching learning process. So again we are focusing on the teaching learning process. This has to mold the character of the student, especially the higher education. That is very important. So look at it, it looks very simple, but various keywords, that is the constructive role of the students, using values and keywords, and then teaching learning process, and then making sure that they mold their character, they mold the character accordingly. Discuss. So this is what I've given it, which will be very, very important for you for the mains point of view. And what we have just recap is we have spoken about the speaker, what he is talking about. It is against Article 212. Polity point of view, we discussed this. And then again in regards to this is just in regards to India, China, in regards to internal or national security, we have discussed in regards to national security. And this again polity. And this again in regards to the economy, US India Business Council, and this again in regards to the trade, between Afghanistan and India. So this is how we are focused at different news items which will definitely benefit for you in regards to the prelims point of view, and I will discuss at length for both prelims and mains point of view. So I would say a very big thank you and also good luck. So good luck. Hope everything turns out to be simply great for you. So good luck what? That I hope everything turns out to be simply great. Simply great for you. And then I would say before you sign off, please do like the video, share the video, that is YouTube channel, AKS IAS YouTube channel. Subscribe the video and then visit the aksis.com website, and also get connected to Telegram link of AKS IAS Academy, that is Advanced Knowledge System IAS Academy, t.me/aks.ias, and then my Telegram link you can connect it to me, that is t.me/Sandeep Bhushan SBT, S capital, B capital and SBT. And then tomorrow class we will, see you again tomorrow at 7:30 am. I once again say, please maintain the consistency, maintain the schedule, and then that is stick to your schedule, and then maintain or take care of your physical health and mental health. These are very, very important. And Gopinayak sir, India and USA, it's bilateral section. I didn't get you, Gopi. And I would thank you all, everyone. Sir, India and US, it's bilateral. section. Yeah, it is bilateral. US India is bilateral. Absolutely, absolutely bilateral. That is what I said. US IBC is the largest bilateral. Bi in the sense two. Bi means two. So which two? India and US. So it is a bilateral. Yes, Gopi, you are right. US IBC is the largest bilateral trade association in the United States. Fine. So I hope this was very informative, knowledgeable session. And then I would say a very big thank you and a good luck. And then see you tomorrow at 7:30 a.m. And I don't know whether I'm giving you the questions, but are you all writing it? Are you attempting it, or else it is what you say waste of from my end? I'm going ahead with preparing the question, picking up because today's question is again from today's article, Hindu newspaper article. I picked up that for you all. So are you all writing it? If you are not writing it, then I think I need to stop it. Please try. Please give an attempt in what you say writing the answer for the question. Are you all writing it? Is my point. Fine. Fine. Thank you, and then good luck. See you tomorrow at 7:30 a.m.